Okay, I think this is the last part that I need to do to cover most of the bases on an edible ink printer and maintenance. If I think of something else, I'll do an additional video. But in the case of a color not printing, like sometimes you'll be printing and all of a sudden something stops printing. The first thing to do is to take the cartridge out. You open this up, like you'll be able to tell if there's no yellow printing at all. All of a sudden there's no yellow. So the first thing to do, you take out the yellow cartridge, say it's yellow we're talking about, and squeeze, like you squeeze this. I have some paper towels here, so when I'm dripping it. What you want to do is squeeze it to see if the ink is coming out here. And sometimes you can squeeze it and a drop will come out, and sometimes you can't, but you'll be able to tell. And on this sponge, this isn't the kind of sponge that you can pull out. I've seen sponges where you can pull them out to make the connection better. A lot of times the reason that the color stops going through is that the air gets in there and kind of dries stuff out. So I'm going to dry off that black. So what you want to do is get this wet. It's kind of like priming the pump. And I figured this out. The first thing to try, take some of your yellow replacement, like your refill ink, and just put a few drops on this. And you just squeeze a few drops out, get that section of the sponge really wet, then put this back in and try the print again and see. And for this kind of thing, I would do like my little, remember I had made this thing? Do this because then you're not wasting the ink for the full thing. And that'll just tell you. And you can print this in a smaller size too, like little wallet size, because then you'll be able to see the colors, but it's not going to take up so much. So this will test to see if you still don't have any yellow, let's say it's yellow that's causing you the trouble, then what you're going to do is, let me think. First you do a deep cleaning. Alright, so you're going to clean the computer, you're going to clean the ink from the inside. Let me see which way to go with this. So it's centered. Okay. Get a little closer. I'm sorry for the delay. I'm just trying to get this where you guys can see it. Okay. So you want to go to maintenance, which I think is over in this direction. Yeah, okay, go to setup. See the little setup button? And you're going to go into the maintenance section. In maintenance, that'll let you print the nozzle check pattern, which will show you if anything is not printing or not. If it'll tell you that the printer paper is the right size. For some reason, I have trouble with that, so I just made that little pattern like I said. So you're going to press cleaning, and you're going to clean the nozzles out twice. This takes ink though. It sucks the ink through the cartridges into the printer head, and it takes a lot of ink. So if you don't need to do this, don't do it. Okay, so you can do the cleaning, and you can do that twice before it's, you know, not even going to work, and it's pointless. Check the nozzle check pattern in between the cleanings, because cleaning it once might solve the problem. If that doesn't work, do a deep cleaning. That takes more ink, and it'll give you a little message that says, this takes a lot of ink. Do you want to do that? And just put yes. And if the deep cleaning doesn't solve the problem, or if the yellow starts printing and then everything else stops printing, which has happened to me, or, you know, suddenly the blue doesn't print or whatever, then you have to give up and clean the print head, which is never fun. And I don't know why this just went away. Okay. So to clean the printhead, you have to take the printhead out, which is the reason that you get the Canon machines. Because with the Canon, you can take the printhead out. And the way to do that, see, this kind of lines up a little bit over. What you want to do is push this over just a little bit and hold it while you unplug the machine so that it cuts the power off. If I can get this thing out, it'll cut the power off, and that'll be where it needs to be. Okay. Now you take these cartridges out, and you should use the little covers on them, but I'm not going to have this out for too long. Put the covers on them so it doesn't dry out the sponge. Now, the way to do this one, some machines have something here, and if you are not using a Canon or you have a different model, you might need to look in the manual for the printer to see how to get the printhead out. For these, you pull it forward, and that unlocks the printhead cartridge here, and you can just reach in. There's like a little thing where the ink sits, and just pull it out. That's the printhead. And the printhead is the brains of the printer, and if it gets clogged up, it doesn't work. So to clean this, you get a little container of hot water. You put it in the hot water. There are also instructions. I use the inks from Icing Images, and if you're one of their customers, you can go on and get a lot of instructions about how to clean the printhead there. They have printhead ink cleaner that's like a solvent. You can run this through hot water and pretty much clean the whole thing out. So once everything is clean, it's dry. You don't want to put a wet printhead back in there. Make sure it's all dry. You're going to do the same thing. Put this back in. This is the harder part. I find that it's harder to get it in than it is out. Okay, so get that in there, and then you put all the cartridges back in, one by one. Then you try printing it again. And usually that will work. Usually the printhead cleaning will work. Sometimes you have to do the printhead cleaning twice, and sometimes you have to do it 3 times. And if that doesn't work, oh, I also press this back. Okay, so snap that all back in. Then when you turn this back on, it's going to give you a rude message that said you didn't turn it off right, and don't do that again. So just ignore that. If for some reason this doesn't work, you can also try, or you can try this before, inside the printer. I don't think I'm going to be able to get a good view of this at all, but kind of down in the side here, and you can see this if you have, you know, x-ray vision that goes around the corner. There's these 2 hard little sponges, and if they dry out, the printer won't work. So just take some water and drop some water drops onto that and get them wet. Sometimes that'll help. There's another printer inside the printer. There's another sponge, I'm sorry, there's another sponge inside the printer that you have to turn it over and open the door in the back to get to, and sometimes that's the reason. I've only had to do that once out of all the times that I've had to do this, and I've had to do this a few times. So, and eventually the printhead will just stop working and the printer's pretty much dead. So, you know, things do wear out. Everything wears out. So I'm going to try to connect this back up. Close that. I'm going to try to stick the power cord back in the back here. Okay, it's in. Oh, it's almost in. See, I'm trying to get it in there without having to turn the whole thing around. Alright. I'm going to let you see the rude little message it will give me. If you just unplug it, the printer doesn't like that. And it will tell you, don't do that again, once it starts back up. But cleaning the printhead usually will kind of get out anything. What you're trying to do is get out clogged ink, and using a solvent will help, like the solvent cleaner will help. See, it says power was not turned off correctly. Press the power button when turning the power off, and you just press OK and it goes away. So don't worry about their scolding, because you needed to do that. If you turn it off from the power button, the cartridge will go, the little carrier will go back. So you don't need to do that. You need it to stay where it is, and the only way to do that is to turn it off by unplugging it. All right, so there's the sponges inside, clean the printhead. If all that doesn't work, send me a message. Or you can go online. Sometimes people have ideas. And I did have a printhead that I had to throw out. It's, you know, you basically just throw out the whole printer, because the printheads cost more to replace than it costs to buy a new printer usually. The printhead is the expensive part of the printers. And I think that's it. So, you know, the way to get this finished, fixed if it doesn't print a color, first put a little replacement ink on the sponge, on the cartridge itself, see if that works. If that doesn't work, clean the cartridge by using the clean function up here. If that doesn't work, clean it again. If that doesn't work, do a deep cleaning. If that doesn't work, clean the printhead. And you can also try putting the water on the sponges. Sometimes if these sit around a lot, for a long time before you use them, the sponges will dry out, and the sponges have to be wet to have that work. So you might have to clean the printhead a couple of times. If you clean the printhead 2 or 3 times and it doesn't work, you might just be out of luck. So that's the order of serious actions that you need to take. So obviously, just start with the cartridge first and work your way up to having to clean the printhead. So leave me any questions, and if you think of weird things that your printers do, leave them. Oh, you know what I will do? I'll do one more about cleaning the rollers and that kind of stuff, because sometimes that'll make marks on your prints, and that's not good.